Hello, everybody. Welcome to a very special podcast brought to you by GAGEsRAGE. I am going to give you my own personal Happy Gilmore movie review since I was gone last week with the rest of the buds. I am brought to you by, of course, our great partnership with Blue Collar Media Group. Those guys over on the East Coast are pretty awesome. Go check out BCMG on all the socials and their website where you can find our podcast and more. But to get right into it, I was gone at a bachelor party and missed the podcast where we did record the movie review for Happy Gilmore. Now, this I did say when I chose it, is one of my favorite movies in my memory. And after watching it again, I was reminded exactly why I think that it is probably one of the most quotable comedy movies of all time. It definitely goes down with a lot of other Adam Sandler movies and some legendary comedies like Step Brothers and The Other Guys. Will Ferrell is definitely in a lot of them. Adam Sandler has been one of the great comedy actors of our times. So it's tough not to pick movies with some of these guys in them. Super bad. Jonah Hill, Seth Rogen, I Love You Man, 40-Year-Old Virgin, Wedding Crashers. I think the guys named a few that stick out in their heads. But to me, Happy Gilmore has probably been the movie I've watched the most. And it's one of the most quotable movies I can ever think of. I think something my fellow podcast host forgot was maybe some of you listeners are watching Happy Gilmore for the first time. It's pretty tough to imagine that because it is, like I said, one of my favorite movies that I've seen absolutely the most in my life. So it's tough to remember back to the time when you saw it the first time. A couple of the things the guys said that really bugged me. The idea that this is a better movie for a child than an adult, I totally disagree with. There's a lot of adult humor in this movie, and it is funny. It's physical comedy. It's a 90s comedy. There's fun stuff for kids, too. Don't get me wrong. But I think as an adult, you can appreciate the humor so much more, and there's lines and scenes that you really miss. So instead of doing a movie review, I'm going to review the Budhole's movie review. I think one of the first things I remember out of the podcast the guys did was the golfers, how Happy gets introduced to golf. Clearly he is a hockey player, and his grandma is in deep trouble with the IRS to the tune of $270,000. This number did not change throughout the movie. Grandma owes the IRS $270,000. That is why her home that was built by her husband, Happy's grandpa, with his bare hands, is going to be repossessed and sold to claim that chunk of $270,000. In a deleted scene, now this is what I'm adding, you will find the moving company comes across a golf bag full of golf clubs. And it is with this golf bag, they claim a union break, which the guys would have loved if they would have seen. And they have to go out and hit some golf balls. Happy's upset because he wants to see this Bruins game, as the guys said. So he gets out there and watches them, and he gives them a hard time because the main character, the guy from Mad TV, or the main golfer, he can't hit the ball dang near 20 feet. So Happy starts chuckling, and they're like, well, if it's so easy, tough guy, why don't you come down here and you hit the ball further than mine? We'll get back to work. He laughs. He's like, look at this sissy clubs. What are you supposed to do with this? And he does his wind up, the full run up to it, and smokes that ball. The first time you see Happy hit it, you get to realize he's got some talent. Then the guys claim beginner's luck. $20, you can't do it again. Happy's like, well, all right. I mean, No problem here. After his ball had broken the window on the first shot of the house about 400 yards down the street, his second ball hits the lady in the head, and she falls from the roof of that second floor. The guys are dying. The guys say, "Oh, you hit that lady," and Happy goes, "Oh, she shouldn't have been standing there." I mean, the lines from this movie are amazing. The lady shouldn't have been standing in her own house looking out the window. Come, give me a break, boys. Then the guy says, "Double or nothing." And then Happy's like, "Well, you better pay up, man. $40 back in the 90s. That was a lot that could get you 2 weeks and a pack of gas and a pack of cigarettes on the way out." But the third shot is the one that smokes the husband in the head after he starts screaming at the guys. And then Happy clicks that, hey, maybe this could be a real thing. Maybe I could make some money and pay back Grandma's house. So he goes to the range, and an unenthused Chubbs, who is the golf pro at this clubhouse, is being paid to watch some lady barely even swing at golf balls, and comes across Happy and thinks he's got some real talent. And I don't think the guy's justified enough Chubbs' character. You know, a black man that was a pro golfer back in the 60s to 70s in a different time. Some of the greatest line. I mean, I think my favorite character of all time is Chubbs from Happy Gilmore. Chubbs is so funny, and he had his hand bit off by an alligator in a golf tournament down in Florida. He hooked the ball in the rough on the left. I mean, when Chubbs goes into dialogues about the past and his mama wanting him to play something safer than football, or there's so many just interesting stories and interesting quotes and interesting details. You know, if you watch the movie, you know how badly the guys butchered these quotes in the movie review. I mean, could you trouble me for a warm glass of milk? Could you trouble me for a warm glass of shut the hell up? You will go to sleep, or I will put you to sleep. Check out the name tag, Granny. You're in my world now. That is what the intendant Hal of the old folks' home has to say to Granny the first time they meet. Hal, Ben Stiller's character, is uncredited. He's not even in the credits for this movie. If you want to find his role in the movie, you won't find it. You have to watch the movie to know Ben Stiller is in Happy Gilmore. He's got to go down as the greatest uncredited role in cinema history. And that is what Gage's Rage was standing. There is... we all know the quotes. We all screw up the quotes, just like the Budhole did. When he announces that arts and crafts time is going to be extended by 4 hours today because he's selling handmade quality shit we're talking here. And then when the grandma, not Happy's grandma, but another grandma decides to voice her opinions about her fingers hurting, Hal goes, "Oh, well, now your back's going to hurt because you just pulled landscaping duty." And while he's escorting her, "Oh, does anyone else's fingers hurt?" "I didn't think so." Now he starts escorting this granny out to do landscaping work outside and runs into Happy, who's happy to tell his grandma that he had won the amateur event and will be making the pro tour. And he's carrying his trophy. And so quickly, Hal turns and says, "Oh, what a tremendous looking trophy." I mean, the guy's twisted. He's hilarious. I love Hal. He's such a great character. Ben Stiller absolutely nailed it without credit. I can't say that enough. The quotes from this movie are legendary. It is an amazing movie. I'm glad I wasn't on the podcast with the boys because Gage's Rage would have been out in full force. After listening to the entire movie review 2 times, I'm disappointed in the quotes these guys made. I'm confident if I would have been there in person with them to correct them on the quotes, to, keep them honest and remember how funny this movie actually is. Even watching it over my 100th time, reviewing it for this podcast tonight, I still laugh my butt off. I still find stuff back in the scenes that just make me roll on the ground laughing. It's a very quotable movie. It is. After watching it again, I will keep myself honest. And I'm not going to throw a 10 on what I think to be my favorite movie, because a 10 doesn't exist. I'll stand behind that. The guy saying that you can have multiple 10s. No, F that. There's always going to be something that's better for some reason. So I want that. I want to be able to do that. For me, I'm just going to give you guys the score. I think I give you enough behind the scenes information. I didn't even touch on Shooter. I'm sorry, Shooter McGavin. Shooter is another great character for this golf movie to play the villain. Shooter. Choke on that, baby! Yeah! Shooter is so aggressive and quirky, but at the same time, you just love to hate on him. He's got his collared shirt and his sweaters, and there's something that's just unlikable about the guy. And what disappointed the shit out of me was my Budhole podcast did not mention one time probably one of the greatest quotes in a comedy of all time. When they make the bet with Happy and Shooter, Shooter wants to prefacize. He wants to make sure he's got the specifics down. Yes, so you're going to beat me in a game of golf. Well, good luck, bud, because I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast. You eat pieces of shit for breakfast? Come on. How can you not say that quote, boys? How can you not? I was very frustrated listening to it. The second time was even worse. The Budhole let me down. I am not going to go out on a limb and be an outlier on this movie review. I'm going to give it to honest to goodness score. As a comedy, as one of my favorite movies, I give it an 8.6. That's GAGEsRAGE's score. 8.6 out of 10. Doesn't hit the 9s for me. Definitely a great movie. If you've never seen it, I wish I could go and experience what you could do. Check out this movie if you have HBO Max. I know I went out and broke the rules and didn't pick a streamer that's available on Netflix and Hulu and whatever. It'll come back. It's one of the greatest movies of all time. People love it. You go and watch this movie when you have the opportunity and come back to the Budhole and tell us we were right. Or tell me I was right. Let me deny vindication for the rest of the buds. Let me be on the high horse, pointing my finger down. Hey, you guys suck. I'm going to bump that score up. I'm going to try and get it into the 8s. I give it an 8.6. This is GAGEsRAGE, and that is my Budhole movie review. Or movie in review. Thank you, Blue Collar Media Group. As always, you guys are you guys are great. You guys are funding us for quite a big project coming up at the end of April. If you know, you know. That being said, thanks for checking this episode out. It's going to be a little different. There's not going to be ads there will be ads, but we won't have our intro, outro. Again, I'm been pretty busy, so I'm on my way out to a snowboarding trip, but I had to get this review out. It was sitting on my mind after listening to that rough podcast the boys put out. Boys, I'm joking. I love you. With that, bye.